Hello. If you were to think about it for a second, what emotions do you usually go through when playing Dota? Would it be things like happiness and relaxation, or would it be more on the side of stress, anger, and anxiety? As a coach, I've proposed a question around these lines to many of my students and friends over the years, and while some people have fun and express that they have a healthy, sustainable relationship with Dota, many people reluctantly express that it's typically negative. And if you were to look at the overarching aesthetic of how the Dota community paints its relationship with the game, the most common perspective to be found is the game being miserable and horrible. But people still play it and they're still addicted. These miserable players did not come out of nowhere. They were once passionate, happy players that were daydreaming, excited for the moment they get to queue again. So, what happened to these people to turn them into who they are now? Is it Dota? Is it life? Or is it just growing up? These are big questions with big answers, and luckily, I have big ambitions. So this is going to be the first video in a series discussing the emotional side of Dota. It's not going to replace my typical educational content. I still have a lot of mid-heroes to make guides on, but this has been something I've been passionate about for a while, and I think it's going to help the community way more than a lone druid guide. So we'll be starting with the most fundamental and important part: fun. My goal with this first episode is to address where our negative emotions within Dota come from and give you, my lovely emotionally stable viewer, an understanding of why many people, that may or may not include you, struggle to have fun in Dota, and what can be done to reverse that problem and return to our stress-free, whimsical enjoyment of our beloved game, Dota 2. So, it's important to start this video off by saying that there is no problem in experiencing negative emotions when playing Dota. At its core, the game is rather difficult and can lead to emotional, heated moments, so a certain degree of frustration is to be predicted. But when it becomes problematic is when we're experiencing those negative emotions way more often than we are experiencing positive ones. For the vast majority of people, Dota and other competitive games are just a fun way to pass the time, a hobby. Think of other hobbies that you enjoy. They also include some negative emotions, don't they? But the negative emotions will never outweigh the positives, because if they do, we just go do something else. But why do so many people remain in an unhealthy, negative relationship with Dota? The compulsive engagement in a behavior that knowingly results in physical, psychological, or social harm is a common definition of addiction. And this is what many people find to be their position in relation to Dota. Addiction is not related to a certain game or activity. It can happen to anyone and towards anything. It's also a very serious and difficult condition to deal with, one that should be treated gently and properly. And while this video will likely not help you overcome your addiction, it may help open your eyes to the possibility of you or someone you know being addicted to Dota. Addiction is a coping mechanism. It's a sign of distress, of suffering. And games like Dota, that are very deep and complex, tend to be heavily associated with addiction because of how potent they are as an escapism tool. They're deep, endless, and they give you quite a dopamine rush if they go well. If you find yourself having a hard day, going home, queuing a game of Dota just for the sake of winning, then losing the game and feeling terrible, leading you to queue over and over again until you win, this is not passion and this is not fun. This is an addiction, and a reliance on the win to give you the relief to stop playing and move on to other things. I will be focusing the rest of my video on maximizing your fun outside of addiction, but if you believe that you're addicted to Dota, remember that everything can be fixed. Your relationship with yourself and with Dota are both fixable. If you have an unhealthy reliance on the game as your form of escapism, it will take time, but that can be changed. And unlike other common addictions, like smoking or drinking, Dota is not an inherently negative addition to your life. It can be made positive, so don't give up on it. Now, with the topic of addiction addressed, we can look at the main subject of our video. Everyone starts off enjoying Dota. That's why they play it more, and that's also why when someone's not having fun anymore, they keep playing anyway, because they're chasing that high that they had at one point in the past. But because Dota is a game that is generally played on a long-term basis, with most players being active in the game for at least a few years, many things change throughout a player's life. So a big mistake that happens is not acknowledging these changes and their impact on our relationship with the game, continuing to pursue feelings that are no longer achievable. This doesn't mean that if we had fun 10 years ago, we cannot have that fun now. It just means that for us to have fun again, we need to address why it stopped to begin with. We need to process our feelings so that they're no longer a burden on us, and only then will we start making progress towards having fun again. But if we don't address our problems, we'll just continue on the same path filled with nostalgia and denial. For the sake of the video, I've split the main reasons that harm our enjoyment of Dota into 3 sections. I've based these 3 sections on my experience in coaching and my research on the subject. I'll be talking about each one individually, explaining it briefly, then offering my advice and thoughts on how we can fix that specific problem. Technically there's 4 problems. One of them is addiction, but we won't go into addiction any further as we already discussed it briefly. So let's start with our first reason. Have you ever played a game of Dota and felt like you just couldn't focus no matter what you do? Your head just wasn't in the game. I sure did. It's frustrating and it hurts, because you know that you can do better and you're not sure why the game feels so wrong. Life is very hard and unpredictable, and even when it's going well, it's very turbulent and it takes up a lot of your headspace. We have busy periods, we have important life decisions, we have relationships, and all of these things that happen outside of our game time impact us when we decide to play Dota. Stress from sources completely unrelated to gaming or Dota can show up in many different ways. Most commonly, we're going to see ourselves becoming more irritable, easier to set off, and playing worse. Stress is also not an obvious emotion. You don't need to feel stressed or look stressed to be stressed. Sometimes you might feel perfectly normal, but you're still on edge and tensed up subconsciously. If you find yourself stressed out about something, like a job interview or an exam, so you decide to distract yourself by playing a game of Dota as a form of escapism, it may end up backfiring because Dota is a very emotionally intensive game, and when we're already stressed out about other things, we can be more sensitive than usual. So by queuing a game, we're putting ourselves in a gambling position. We either get a brief, temporary relief if the game goes well, or we get a significant hit to our mood when we're already stressed out and we can't really handle it. So what do we do if we realize that we're currently at a stressful or busy period of our life and we don't have a lot of headspace to spare for Dota? First, we acknowledge it. By acknowledging that we are indeed going through a stressful or busy period, we're already halfway through getting to the fix, because we've now opened up the possibility to reflect and contemplate on the situation, and we're no longer just doing the same thing and gambling that it's going to go well this time. After the realization, we want to explore what kind of problems we're going through, and based on that, we decide what to do. While everyone is very unique and there is many different things that can happen to different people, I chose to classify things into 2 categories. So let's start with the first one, procrastinated tasks. This one is interesting, and the easiest one to fix, in my opinion. But let's say you're a student, and you have a lot of homework or an exam you need to attend. A common mistake you could be making is that you decide to play Dota first to relax, and then study for your exam. What this does is that you end up playing your game of Dota in a state of half comfort. You're not fully relaxed because you know that there are tasks you're supposed to be doing right now, and you're not fully tense because you're forced to try and focus on the game. This is especially volatile because if you end up having a bad game, which is very possible, it's going to make whatever comes after it feel very depressing and hard to do. This same example can be used for less important things. If you need to take the trash out, if you need to cook dinner, go shopping, any sort of tasks that could bring you a level of stress, choosing to procrastinate them and play Dota instead is going to feel bad, because you're not fully focused on the game. Those tasks are constantly in the back of your head. So the fix? Just do the things you need to do, and let Dota be your reward for doing those things. So then even if the game goes badly, you can just relax and do something that is guaranteed to feel good, as opposed to needing to go do the chores that you procrastinated after you have a terrible game of Dota. This is a much more complex topic, as this would be more related to your entire state as a person, your emotional well-being, your environment, your relationships. If you're going through a difficult part of your life, such as a breakup or a divorce, an exam session, illness, or the many other rough things that life throws at you usually, you're gonna be stressed, and you will not have the mental clarity to truly give it your all in a game of Dota. And so the most important thing here is the realization. And then, deciding if it's possible for you to enjoy Dota without giving it your all, such as playing with your friends and just doing stupid things, or trying out different game modes, ability draft, single draft, or just playing completely new heroes that you've never touched before. The change of environment might make it easier for you to take the game less seriously and be less harsh on yourself. And if you were to try new heroes, for example, you put yourself in new situations and you have no expectations to go off of, as opposed to if you were to go play ranked on your best hero, you'd get endlessly frustrated, as you would know that if you were in a better position mentally, you'd be playing so much better. There is the possibility that in such a state, you just don't enjoy the game. And that's also perfectly fine. Take a break, participate in things that don't have that negative association or stress or competitiveness, then get back to Dota whenever you're able to again. Dota is not going to go anywhere. It's always going to be waiting for you. Internal negativity can be split into two types to avoid confusion. First is your internal feelings and the way you see yourself, and second is the feelings that arise through the course of a game of Dota, related only to this specific game's events. For the first one, this is something that is often neglected and not addressed enough in all gaming communities, but most forms of toxicity and negative emotions produced from playing games do not arise from pure evil or hatred towards other people. They more so arise from mistakes in someone's perception of the world around them, and of themselves. For example, what do you feel when you think of queuing a game of Dota? What do you feel when you make mistakes? Do you find that when games go badly, the first thing you default to is finding something to blame that isn't you? Or is it the other extreme end? You blame yourself for everything and you find that you're incredibly harsh on yourself and not other people. Our internal monologue and our thoughts about the game affect us a lot, and oftentimes we are way too harsh on ourselves and on other people. Being kind to yourself genuinely goes a very long way, and many of the people I've talked to and helped over the years were just unnecessarily cruel to themselves, and this reflected in the way they acted towards other people too. When you restrict yourself to only specific roles because they're the only ones you're good at, you're very critical of your mistakes, you're very upset at yourself when you lose games, this gets reflected on how you feel towards other people too. Being critical of ourselves is good, but we need to celebrate our accomplishments too. We cannot only focus on our mistakes and expect our experience of Dota to be fun. If all we can think about is how many mistakes we've done and how many things we messed up, how will we find the motivation to play again? So what I propose here is that you need to be proud of yourself more often. You need to be kind to yourself, and you need to celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how small they are. And on our second point of internal negativity, this is going to be the least abstract part of the whole video. It's what you feel when someone's playing badly, when someone's being rude, when someone's not doing what you want them to do, and when you make a mistake. All the feelings that come up based on things that happen through the game. How do we deal with those? I plan on making an entire video on this topic, so I'm going to keep this relatively brief, but when it comes to frustration caused by teammates, the biggest piece of advice is humanizing others, and realizing that more often than not, you're going to be making up a scenario in your head that paints this person as an evil, horrible person ruining your game, when in reality, if you give it a second of thought, you can see yourself in their position too. A little thought experiment would be that the next time you have someone in your game do something bad, like play terribly, imagine it was you, or your best friend making that mistake. How would you react to that? And when it comes to the negative emotions that come up from your own mistakes and self-criticism, we can extend a similar definition of humanizing and grace. It takes time, and it's difficult to change the way we perceive ourselves, because our harshness towards ourselves in the context of Dota is often a mirror of how we treat ourselves outside of Dota, too. But it's possible, and if you ask me, changing your attitude towards yourself in the context of Dota towards a more positive one is way less overwhelming than being positive towards yourself in everyday life. Lastly, built-up bias. This is something especially related to people who have been playing this game for a long time. The key word here is bitterness. After playing the game for years and experiencing a lot of negativity and bad experiences without properly processing them, we develop a lot of bitterness towards many different things, whether it be certain hero picks, certain words or patterns of speech, or even certain nationalities and races. This is an incredibly important part to work on if you notice it in yourself, because these built-up biases leave you no room for the possibility of having fun. You become a walking, self-fulfilling prophecy. When you queue a game, see a position 5 pudge, and immediately decide that this game is going to be terrible, it makes you play and act worse, which both have a very large impact on the quality of the game. This causes a cycle of you believing a game is going to be horrible, influencing it negatively, thus making it undeniably horrible due to your negative contribution. Then you leave it thinking, God, I hate position 5 pudge, always ruin my games. Someone having a Cyrillic alphabet name, picking position 5 pudge, or having a Spanish name are not things that are guaranteed to give you a terrible experience. It's more that we develop a flawed sense of pattern recognition, because negative experiences are significantly easier to memorize and internalize than positive ones. So we end up deluding ourselves into believing these things are an immediate loss and the next 40 minutes are a waste of our time. The fix, while not easy to do, is to be self-aware of the source of your feelings. If you queue into a game and you feel some negative emotion towards one of your teammates when they haven't done anything inherently wrong yet, question those feelings. Talk to yourself about them, whether on the spot or after the game. But think about them and reflect on them, and understand why you feel the way you do. More often than not, our biases are not based in logical reasoning that we can stand behind. They're baseless, and thus they're easy to deconstruct if we have the courage and awareness to confront them. Alright, that's all the cool and smart things I have to say for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do leave some feedback in the comments. I would love to discuss this topic. And if you're interested, I currently have slots open for coaching, so feel free to contact me on Discord. All the information is going to be in the description. I'm offering a 15% discount for the first week after this video comes out to people coming from the video. And when it comes to streaming, I'm currently on a break because I'm moving and it's quite busy, but do follow me on Twitch for when I return to streaming. Join my Discord, join the Dota University Discord for a community of kind people, and that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.